So if you actually want to get rich or get stable financially, there are a few things you're actually going to have to do overall to actually do this. It involves selling things, donating things, or just, for example, giving certain things up. And some things you can't sell, but you're better off just giving it away because in reality, they cost you a bunch of money to actually have. Now, it's going to be a very controversial video because what I'm going to mention here, number one especially, is going to be crazy, but number three was basically one of the hardest things for me to actually do. So make sure you watch this video till the very end. And as always, guys, like this video on top. Also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, the first thing is this, okay? If you're broke and you have a pet, you might want to consider either donating the pet or selling the pet. And here's what I mean, okay, guys? I've seen people literally run into financial disasters by having a pet. In the sense that, for example, people have to pay for crazy operations, $4,000, $3,000, and people have to basically maintain pets when it comes to food, cat litter, all this stuff. You know, the average cost of a pet is almost around like $800 per month now, 770 bucks exactly, but around almost $800 a year. And that is a good amount of money. Overall, if you invested that money, that could be a good chunk of money for the future. And obviously, if you can afford a pet, have a pet. If you can't afford a pet, you're being irresponsible and you should probably just give it up for adoption, or for example, give it to somebody else, or for example, potentially even sell it. Here's my story. And by the way, it is controversial because these days we live in a world where if you have an animal, then the animal is sacred in the sense that you got to keep it. But when I got my cats, for example, I had a white cat and I had a tiger cat, whatever you want to call that cat, okay? And these two cats, I rescued one from the trash bin. I got one in adoption. It was cool stuff, right? And then I realized that one, it was expensive to have these cats, but two, it was very hard for me to actually give them a good life because in reality, I wanted to travel, but then I couldn't leave them at home by themselves because they couldn't just eat by themselves, obviously, right? So it was like, wow, what do I do here? So what I ended up doing was basically, I grabbed the white cat and I gave it to a well-known family person, and that's that cat. And then my other cat, I gave it to my mom. But overall, this saved me one, a bunch of money, and it also gave the cats an appropriate lifestyle to where they actually wanted to go, right? So that makes a lot of sense, okay? Now, here's one thing I hear a lot of people struggle with, and it's the guilt. You feel you're giving up a cat or whatever, or an animal. You know, I don't think you should feel that whatsoever because in reality, you're still having that cat go to another person's home. You're still giving up that, and in reality, let's be honest here, your life is a bigger priority than that animal's, okay? I'm just being real. Not a popular opinion, but if you are really financially struggling and you're finding yourself not being able to save any money, you're like an inch away from like poverty and all this stuff, like you're probably just better off like giving that cat up for adoption and having that cat be in a better home. Remember, it is a 15-year commitment, and sometimes people don't appreciate that when they actually get into the deal. All right, so that is something to consider. Sounds mean, but it's very true. Now, number two, guys, is going to be sell your car. You know, the car I actually want is a Toyota RAV4, and because I live, for example, right now in Dominican Republic, cars are very expensive here for some reason because of the tax and the import. It costs around $33,000 to $40,000 for that car, and I'm like, that is a lot of car. That is a lot of car, a lot of money. It's just overall a terrible deal. Now, I want that car. And my rule is the only car I buy is the car I can afford to pay off in cash without having to wonder about my money or feel like I'm basically burning money away. So for me, $40,000 is a lot of money. For my friends, it's like buy the car, but for me, like I'm not doing that. It's ridiculous. It's irresponsible. So the best car you can possibly buy is the car you can afford to pay for in cash, a car that's no more than half of your annual income. And a third rule I have is basically a car that when you drive it, you feel safe in it, right? But it's not a car you drive and you're like, oh my goodness, I hope nothing breaks down in this car, right? Because then you're kind of like, okay, it's gonna be a massive expense you probably can't afford in the first place. So that's the first thing. A lot of people have, for example, monthly payments of $500, $600, $700 per month on a car. Sell that thing. It is such a big wealth drainer, okay? So better off selling that car, buying a used car, $5,000, $1,000, and investing that difference into your retirement account or whatever, okay? Now, number three is Sell your tech. It's the hardest one for me because I'm very big on tech. I have an Apple Watch. I use it for running, obviously. I have an iPhone. I have a laptop. I used to have a PlayStation. I used to have a lot of technology you guys don't even know about. But a big computer. I had a massive computer like this. It was so expensive. I sold everything, okay? Here's why. There are a lot of things that cost you money in the sense that it costs you, for example, $1,000 to actually have one of these phones, but they also cost you money, for example, subscriptions and so on. So in reality, I realized that utility is more important than, for example, how things look. The only reason I have the iPhone 14 Pro Max is because it was a gift to myself because I became debt free last year. It was like my gift. It was like, oh my gosh, you did it. Here you go. Okay. But I'm not switching phones for like the next 5 years whatsoever. Okay. That's my rule. So overall, you can basically buy with $1,000 a laptop, an Apple Watch, and a phone. You can buy a $200 phone, $100, $150 like Apple Watch, and also like a $700, $600 laptop with that money. Okay, my point is, I know there are things we need for work and just for daily living, but there are a lot of alternatives to just buying good things that don't cost that much money. So look around your house, and by the way, there are things that don't cost that much, like a PlayStation, like $200, $150, depending if you're gonna buy the new one, might be like $400 or even more. But in reality, that thing costs you a lot more than that. It costs you time because every day you spend, for example, 2 hours, that's like $40 you could have been making somewhere else. Okay, if you're spending a lot of time, that's all money you could be making somewhere else. Okay, it's a lot of time. It costs you a lot of money. So overall, sell the tech, buy cheap versions of it, and be very, very careful with the time you give certain things, okay? Especially when they don't make you any money whatsoever. Give me 1 second here because I want to make sure I actually have the mic on. Yeah, the mic is on. We're good. We're good. Sorry. Just broke the fourth wall here. Number 4 is going to be clothes. For the average person, your clothes are probably not gonna be resellable in the sense that they're not fancy enough. But even not so fancy clothes, you could probably just resell those t-shirts, those jeans, those sneakers on eBay for a good price. Whether it's $3, $10, $40. I cleaned out 80% of my closet when I decided to be financially free. And I was not financially free, I just decided to do it, by the way. And I cleaned out all my sneakers, I sold them. I sold t-shirts, I sold jeans, I sold everything I possibly could, gave away a bunch of things. Not sold all my sneakers, by the way. I kept some of them. But overall, I sold so many things because they were just costing me a bunch of money. And that was money that was basically dead. Wasn't going anywhere. Now, here's the extreme thing that I basically did, okay? Instead of going to H&M and buying myself a $15 t-shirt or $10 t-shirt and buying me some $20 shoes like from Marshalls, I did not do that. I went ahead and I went to Goodwill, and with $50, I bought enough clothes for an entire year. I went to thrift shops. I basically just went crazy. I wanted to save so much money. I was willing to do anything I possibly could. So that's what I did. Extreme, yes. But when I bought the clothes from Goodwill, they were good clothes, good quality. Grab them, wash them, wear them. Don't care. And that's what I basically did at that time, okay? And whenever I wanted to buy clothes, I would just wait for Black Friday. Like my jeans, I've had these jeans for like 4 years now. And they're solid. They're like Gap jeans, but I bought them for a huge discount because I bought them during Black Friday and it was like a sale on top of a sale or whatever. But that's what I basically do, okay? Don't waste money on clothes. Now, number 5 is everything and anything you basically don't need. I want you to really look around I think the average person has like 20,000 or 10,000 items in their home. Like literally, like you might not believe this, but I believe it because I moved like 2, 3 times in a year. And I was like, there's so much stuff here. Like, I can't believe it. There's a lot of stuff when you're moving. Okay. So look around. What do you need? What don't you need? What you don't need, just sell it. Sell absolutely everything you don't need. And by the way, I really want to touch on number 1 again because it seems harsh. But overall, guys, okay, I see people that have pets. And in reality, there's this concept in America, especially in America, where you have to give this pet like this ultimate lifestyle. And it's great stuff from marketing because that's a big industry, right? And they want to sell you all these different things. But in reality, you want to take care of your pet, right? Because it's your pet's responsibility. But if you really can't afford one, reconsider that, okay? And if you do have a pet, you don't have to buy this pet like all the toys in the world. It's not a human being, okay? I know people that treat like animals and pets like they're like babies and they buy them clothes. Like you're being irresponsible, okay? If you cannot financially afford those things, okay? A pet is a pet. I get it. Is cute, all these things, but you have to be emotionally and financially savvy. And you have to just be a well composed person, okay? That's my opinion on that. It's not a popular one, but it is very important, especially when I kind of came here to the Dominican Republic and I saw people like with dogs and cats, and the cats were fine, the dogs were fine, but the cats weren't like in the house, the dogs weren't in the house, but they were just like doing their thing around like the block or whatever. Or, like, everything was fine, and everybody was happy in a sense. Okay, so consider all the things you think are important for a pet and reconsider those things, okay? Because sometimes a lot of it is just marketing and it's just ways to get money out of your pocket, okay? So be careful. And by the way, if you have a pet and you really want to keep this pet and you can afford this pet and you're going to be doing things with this pet, just make sure you have insurance on this pet potentially, because if something goes wrong, it's going to be very costly. And when you're emotionally intertwined with an animal, you're going to want to save this animal and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So have insurance, okay? That's also, but make sure you can afford it, all right? That's my opinion. And also look at DIYs and Pinterest, because there are different things you can actually do around the house to actually be able to afford this animal. But that is it, guys. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. And I want you guys to do me a favor. Comment down below other things you can basically sell or donate or get rid of to actually just save more money overall. The more ideas, the merrier. And if I have enough information and enough on this list, I might even make another video and give you a shout out and just basically have a wider amount of things to actually just consider as far as saving more money. As always, guys, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. Don't know what these symbols are, okay? Sorry. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. Up here's another video. Over in my face, Glenn Surround. As always, long-term team officially out.